Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's tutorial is on how to make an inner side pocket with bold facing design. If this is what you would like to learn, please watch to the end of this video. I've already cut out the skirt block. It's a long skirt I'm making. So I cut out the skirt as well as the lining. Okay, if you don't know how to cut out your own basic long skirt, I'll drop a link in the description box on how you can draft your skirt pattern. And also the lining for this is 2.5 inches shorter than the main fabric. So as usual, while drafting, cutting out this skirt, I've already added the dart allowance at the waist. But for this tutorial, I do not want to sew in the dart, so I would be taking out the darts. So by the side, I'm going to measure out the dart allowance I added. I added 1 inch dart allowance. So on the waist, I'm measuring by the side 1 inch out, and then I'll come down. I'll measure from the waist 5 inches downwards by the side, and I'm going to connect this measurement, and by this I would be removing or eliminating the dart allowance. So you can see how I've connected. I'll go ahead and cut this part out, that is cutting out the 1 inch I added for that. So I'm arranging my skirts with the lining. So this 1 inch I'm cutting out, I'm not only cutting it out on the main fabric, I'm also cutting it out on the lining as well. So for this, I'm cutting the dart allowance on the lining and on the main fabric. After this, I'm going to remove my lining piece and then draw out where the pocket is going to be on the main fabric. On this smaller piece, I'm going to show you how I will be measuring out the parts that will be cut from the front part where the pocket will be placed. So on this smaller piece, I've already eliminated the that allowance like I did on the main piece for the skirt. So what I will have here now is quarter of the waist measurement, which is 9.5 inches plus 1.5 inches side allowance, side seam allowance. That is what I used on the skirt. So I have this. What I'm going to do now, you can see where I measured my seam allowance from this point. I'm going to measure from this point now. I'm reconnecting because it seems I have excess. So from the seam allowance on the waist, I'm going to come in by 3 inches. So the opening for the pocket I want is 3 inches. So I'm measuring from the seam allowance 3 inches, and then from the waist I'm going to measure 7.5 inches. 7.5 inches because I actually have half-inch joining allowance at the top of the skirt. So the opening for the pockets would be 3 inches by 7.5 inches. So I'm using the curved part of my pattern master to connect these points. I'm connecting the 7.5 inches to the 3 inches at the top part. So you can see how I've connected this. This measurement I have now is where I want the pocket to be when sewn. So I won't be cutting exactly on this measurement. I will measure out half-inch at the waist part and also half-inch above the 7.5 inches line. So I'm going to connect this point. So you see how I'm connecting it. So this second curve is where I will be cutting out on the fabric, and then when I sew it, it will now return to the normal measurements. For the pockets, I've cut out two pieces of fabric, one on either side of the skirt. So the length of this fabric I have on fold is 13 inches. On fold, I have the length of 13 inches, and the width on fold is 7 inches. The width of the fabric. When you open it up, it will be 14 inches. So on fold, I have 7 inches of width, and the length is 13 inches. So what I'm going to do now is to place my skirts on this folded fabric. The two of them are folded, and I made sure they are of equal length. The folded edge is inward, and the outer part of this folded fabric is outward, and I've aligned it with the skirt. You can see how I placed it so that the hip part of the skirt and the edge of this fabric would just be placed at the same level. So what I'm going to do now, you see the excesses around at the waist part and at the lower part, at the hip parts. So I'm going to trim this out so that the pocket fabric takes the shape of the skirt pattern. So I'm going to trim out these excesses I have. You can see what I'm doing. I've pinned my fabric and the skirt together, and I'm trimming out the excesses I have so that it takes the form of or the shape of the skirt. Now I'm going to open the fabric for the pockets. I've opened them up the way I folded them. I opened them, placed them right sides facing each other, and I'm also placing the front skirt part on it. You can see how I've placed it so that only one side is now placed instead of it being folded. So what I want to do now is to cut out the opening on the skirt and as well as the opening on the pocket pieces. So just watch what I'm doing. I've placed them again, and I'm going to cut on the second curve. Like I said before, I'm going to cut on the second curve. So I'm cutting the opening on the skirt and on the pockets. So when I close up the pockets, when it's folded back, you see what I have. This is the opening, the part that will be attached to the skirt. So when it's attached, this is what it will look like. You can see what I have. For the facing, I folded a plain black fabric into two because I want to cut the facing for the two sides of the skirt. So I've placed them, and I would make sure I have inward, I have up to 3 inches, and the down part towards the hip, I'll make sure I also have up to 3 inches because I want the facing to be as bold as 2 inches of boldness. So I'll trim out the shape I have. You can see how I'm trimming out the shape. I'm just going to let this fabric take the shape of the opening for the pockets. So you can see what I'm doing. So after cutting this out, I'm going to measure out the boldness I want. I want the boldness for the facing after sewing to be 2 inches. So I would measure 3 inches, half inch for folding the edge of the facing, and half inch for attaching it to the pocket opening. So I'm measuring 3 inches all round. You can see how I've measured this round. So after measuring this, I'm making my line bolder so that you can see what I have. I'm going to cut on this line. So I measured 3 inches all around. That is what I'm going to cut out for the facing. So after cutting this out, I'm going to iron a soft interfacing to the facing pieces. So you can see I've ironed interfacing to it, and I would place them on their corresponding sides. Wrong side of the facing to the right side of the front skirt parts. So you can see how I've placed them. So what I'm going to do is to top stitch the edge, the upper edge, the curved edge this way to the skirt, and the lower edge I'm going to fold in half inch and also top stitch it to the skirt. I'll do it for the both sides. I have attached the facing to the skirt. You can see what I have. You can see how it's looking. So the next thing now will be to attach the pocket itself to the skirt. So when I attach it, you're seeing how I'm placing the pockets. I'm placing them the corresponding sides. This is what it will look like after being sewn. So but to attach this now, I'm going to bring out my pockets. I'm going to place the right side of the pocket of each pocket, the corresponding side now, to the right side of the fabric of the skirt part, and I'm going to sew with half inch. Then I would notch and top stitch towards the pocket part. So I'll do it for the two sides, and I'll show you the next thing to do. So I've attached the pocket to the skirt. I sewed, like I said, and top stitch towards the pocket fabric. So I'm going to fold it in. This is how it will be. I would have to iron properly. You iron it properly so that the pocket stays inward at the edge. So I would also fold the other side. This is what it should look like after sewing, after attaching. So the next thing to do now will be to close the lower part of the pocket. So I would flip the pocket to the back and show you the next thing to do. If you check, the fabric for the pockets is open at the lower part. So what I'm going to do now is to sew them together. I'm going to sew together this way, and then I'm going to sew the sides. The sides as well is still open. So I'm going to sew the side pieces of the pockets close with the skirt pieces, and also notch hold it together at the top part. So I'll do it for the two pockets and show you what I have. So this is what I have. I've done all that. I've sewn them close, the pockets at the lower part. You can see what it looks like at this point. And I've sewn the sides as well. I also attached the pockets and the skirt. I held them together at the top part where they are meeting. So this is what the pockets look like. You can see it. See how deep the pocket is. So I'm done with attaching the pocket at this point. So the next thing now will be to turn the skirt, the front skirt, with the lining. So to know that you got all this correctly, when you place your lining on the skirt, they should align at the waist and at the hip region. The skirt and the lining should be the same. Lining and the fabric are right sides facing each other. I would pull down the lining at the hem part and sew with 1/2 inch. Then to sew the upper part, because the shortage on the lining will now show on the upper part, so you're going to pull the lining towards the waist and then sew the two sides. That is turning the lining with the fabric with the lining. So I've done all that. This is what I have. I've sewn the lower part. I've also sewn the sides. So because I pulled my lining up, you can see that they are meeting the lining and the main fabric on the waist. So I'll turn it out towards the right side and show you what I have. So this is it on how you can make this pockets with a bold facing design. I have done everything. You can see how it is lined and looking beautiful. All that is left is to give this a good press. Then you can attach the back part to this. If you're making it into a skirt, that will be it. But for this, I made it into a dress. So I'll just couple everything up and show you the finished look of the dress I just made. So for the upper bodies, I made a multiple keyhole bustier top. That is for the upper bodies, and I have a video on how to do that on this channel, and I'll drop the link in the description box. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up so that other people can get to see it. Subscribe to my channel if you're yet to subscribe, and also turn on the notification bell so that you'll be the first to be notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.